All right, you should be on page 29 of your blue workbook, and it should say 2.3 reflections on it. So we're going to be talking about reflections. We've already talked about what's called a translation. That's where you take an image and you just slide it to a new location. So reflections, you guys should know what this is. All it is basically when you take a shape and you flip it. So it's facing the opposite direction. Okay, so right here at the top of page 29, you have a definition for what's called a frieze. And it kind of gives you a picture right here, but it's a horizontal band that runs at the top of a building, and it's often decorated with some kind of like real fancy design that's just repeated over and over again. Okay, we did this with our tessellations, so it is a translation of itself because they just take that image and repeat it, and just slide it over and repeat it. Some even have reflections in them. So if we look at activity 1, okay, we're going to look at this pattern right here. Okay, part A says, is the frieze pattern a reflection of itself when folded horizontally? So they kind of give you a picture right here. If you take this and you basically fold it in half along this imaginary dotted line, okay, would it be a reflection of itself? What you're looking for is, if you were to fold it in half, does it line up exactly with the image on the top and on the bottom? Okay, and you can kind of see on this one a little bit better. But yes, it would be a reflection of itself because when folded, the images line up exactly. Okay, they are exactly the same. Now, part B, we're going to look at if it's folded the other direction. Okay, so if you fold it vertically, will it be a reflection of itself? And you can kind of see and kind of match up. Okay, if you look, this little pattern right here would match up exactly with this pattern. Okay, this one below would match up with that one below. Okay, and you can look right along this dotted line right here and see how the images are the exact same. One's just flipped the other direction. So this is going to be the same thing. Yes, they are reflected because when folded, the images line up perfectly. Okay, so if you think of just folding a paper and then seeing if they match up, or if you were going to do a reflection of this image, fold the paper in half and then just trace it where it would be over on the other side. All right, so let's flip over to page 30. Okay, so let's look at part A. We have a different pattern here. And if you notice, it kind of, to me, it kind of looks like a backwards S. Okay, and I notice that this image is just translated. It's copy and pasted over and over and over again. Okay, so what they want to know is it a reflection of itself when it's folded horizontally, vertically, or neither? Okay, so if I fold it right along this dotted line, you can barely see that dotted line through there. Okay, would it be the exact same? Okay, and I like to pick out a key point in that shape. So if I pick out like this dark circle kind of right here, if I were to fold that paper in half, that dark circle is going to line up right below it. And in the part below, it does not line up. So it does not match up horizontally. Our other question would be, would it line up vertically? If you were to fold it along this green line right here. Okay, again, I can take this dark image. You see how it's really close to the fold line? It's on the other side going to be the exact same distance away. Okay, so those don't line up. So E is going to be neither. Okay, now let's look at B. If If I were to fold this along this horizontal line, do we get the same thing, top and bottom? Okay, I can tell right here we kind of have a C looking like shape right here. Okay, and if I were to flip that down, okay, it would match up exactly. So this one would be horizontally. That works out. What if we try vertically? Okay, I'm going to take this part right here, this shape. Is there a mirror image just on the other side of that line of this shape? And the answer is no, so it would not. It only works out horizontally for part B. All right, coming down, activity 3. Okay, it says draw a rectangle in quadrant 1 of this coordinate plane. So you could put it anywhere. If you want to match up exactly like mine, I'm going to go, let's see, here at 1, 1. I'll name that A. Let's come over to, what would this be? 1, 2, 3. This would be 6, 1. And then I'll just come 2 more straight up from there. So here's my, oops, my rectangle. Not very straight lines, but that's okay. All right. Now, it says copy the axes on and the rectangle onto a piece of transparent paper. Now, transparent is paper that you can see through. If you just grab a piece of notebook paper, it will do just fine. So what you're going to do, and you'll need to pause the video here for just a minute and follow these directions. You're going to copy you're going to copy this image exactly. The x-axis, the y-axis, and your rectangle that you just drew. You don't need to do all these little grid lines through here. But make sure you label it A, B, C, and D also. And I would, whenever you're tracing it, I would do it kind of dark so that it makes sure that it shows up when we go to reflect it. Okay? So, and then let's finish out the directions. It says flip the transparent paper, so your notebook paper. Flip your notebook paper once so that the rectangle is in quadrant 4. So you're basically going to flip it left to right over this line so that your rectangle will end up somewhere over here. Okay. Make sure that you line up your y-axis, your x-axis, and make sure your origin lines up exactly. And then you're going to trace this new shape over here and then label the vertices. So go ahead and pause the video for a second, get that done, and then I'll show you a picture of what it should look like. Okay, so this is what your new shape should look like, okay? And I want to talk about labeling, okay? Because I don't know, some of you may have remembered how to label the new shape, some of you may not. So if you notice, here's my axis that I flipped it over. So if you notice that point A is 1 to the right of that line, the new A will be 1 to the left of the line, okay? The original D was 1 to the right of the line, new D will be 1 to the left of the line, and so on. So as I label these, remember we use the same letter, but then we put an apostrophe with it, and we call that A prime. This would be D prime, that would be C prime, and this would be B prime. So make sure you labeled those correctly according to what they should be on the new shape. Okay? Now, if I come back over here, and we flip over to the new page. Okay, my drawing is gone, but you can still refer to yours. Part C, compare the dimensions and the angle measures of the new figure to those of the original rectangle. So look at your original and your new rectangle. What do you notice about the dimensions, how long the sides are? And then what do you notice about the angles? Okay, they all remain the same. So the size of the shape didn't change at all, just the direction it was facing and the location. D, are the opposite sides of the new figure still parallel? Yes. And we'll say because reflection doesn't change size or shape. So those opposite sides would still be parallel. Okay? And then E, can you conclude that the two figures are congruent? Yes. Because, and I'm going to use the same explanation. Reflection doesn't change size or shape. Okay? Now, you are going to go back to your original drawing, okay? And you're going to now flip your notebook paper. I'm reading part F here. You're going to flip your notebook paper so that the original rectangle, the one that you traced, is now in quadrant 2. And I just realized that we did that backwards. We already did quadrant 2 when we flipped it over to the left, okay? So now we're going to do what would be 4, and we're going to flip it down into the quadrant right below it, okay? So if I bring back my original rectangle, and now we're going to flip it so that it is down here, okay? So if I notice, I'm going to flip it along this x-axis, okay? I'm going to reflect it. So A is 1 above the line, the new A will be 1 below. B is 1 above, the new B will be 1 below. C is 1, 2, 3 above, so the new C will be 1, 2, 3 below, and the same thing for D. So here's our new rectangle. Now, since this is the third rectangle you're going to have on your paper, the one we did over here we labeled A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime. This one was going to be A double prime, so we put 2 apostrophes with it. B double prime, C double prime, and D double prime. So notice the new labeling whenever we create a third shape. Okay, so what I want you to notice with reflections is that anytime you reflect an image, it's a flipped image of it. It looks backwards. And it still doesn't change the size or the shape of it. Everything remains the same. It's just flipped, looks backwards, and it's in a different location. So now if you go back to your Canvas page, then you'll be able to see the assignments that you're going to be working on for today.